Hello and welcome to yet another edition of News18 presents Yuva Bharat in association with IIMUN. So as usual, it's me and Rishabh over there. But along with that, today we've got a subject which could become perhaps the industry or the business of the future, not just generating employment, but also taking technology and possibilities to a whole new level. And perhaps the way we would be or where we see our surroundings in 2021 could be very different in just about 3 to 4 years from now if the Yuva of today are able to tap into this potential that now presents itself purely because of the revision in the drone policy. So the new drone policy 2021 is something that provides a gamut of opportunities in various fields. And to talk about that today, we've got with us Group Captain MJ Vinod, who's just recently been appointed or nominated the subject matter expert by the Ministry of Civil Aviation in Aircraft Accident Investigation Board and also qualified flying instructor. But he also knows a thing or two about drones. So, and he's been very passionately arguing for this drone policy. So he's there with us. So good to have you with us. We also have Ankit Mehta, who's a co-chair FICCI Drones Committee and the founder CEO of IdeaForge. So Ankit, good to have you with us also. And then Malika and Prushti, both students. Malika is a second-year student at BMS HR College, Mumbai, and Prushti is a grade 10 student at GIIS in Ahmedabad. Good to have you with us, ladies. And Rishabh, this is a show of possibilities, and this I'm so excited about this because for me, who hails from a technologically challenged generation, to feel excited about what this can present. So to a technology-born generation, it should be just like looking at a new career option altogether. So I'm going to just have made the introduction. I'm going to throw the floor open to all of you. Let's just start with Group Captain MJ Vinod and let him just set it up for us, and then you guys can all take it forward over the course of the next 20-25 minutes. Vinodji, over to you.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you, Rishabh. And Prushti, Malika, great to see you. Great to see the new generation and all smiles abound. Anand set up the floor beautifully. Two things which he touched upon, which I'll cover a little more, is that the previous drone policy was slightly on the, I would say leaning towards more on security side than on the side of progress. So all of us, including Ankit and the entire industry, was some of them really strong words. But all of us were on the same boat saying that with this, we might miss the bus. Now, coming to the aspect of missing the bus, if you remember, I mean, you won't remember, but you will be able to read it. The young generation will be able to read it, and we saw it. How during the IT boom, .com boom, how we to what we are today. And that is not because of a policy, and that was because of lack of policy. In fact, we had yesteryear's ministers who had 20, 30, 100 computers lying in their offices. And I have seen one such office in my previous life as an Air Force officer who didn't want to open it. He said, "Isse rozgar khatam ho jayega." So that was the thought process with which we caught on to this bandwagon. So like you all are today, we were at that time. And I keep giving this wonderful story in sometimes unbelievable. My name starts with AU, Augustine. And after that starts Bhaskar. So the guy sitting behind me, his name was Bhaskar in Chennai. I studied in Chennai. So Bhaskar failed 3 times. And he came to my class and he was the only guy with a mustache in my class. So none of us had mustache. I mean, we were yet to grow it. So Bhaskar used to copy, in Tamil we call it E-adjunct copy. That means if you swat a fly, he will make that fly also there. So he used to do E-adjunct copy of mine and sailed through the entire school. Went to an NIIT, did some Java course, went to USA. Today, in the weekends, he has a float plane, which he takes it to Canada somewhere, and he has a huge mansion and married thrice and divorced, all team. So that is the kind of life he is leading. What did he do? he did an IIT course. So children who are going to take the plunge today in the drone technology, and which is why I keep harping upon it as much as I can. Like Anand covered beautifully, $100 billion that was projected in 2016 to 20. You can go and Google it. Goldman Sachs drones. It's just the tip of the iceberg. And it was in the past. That is the kind of business opportunity that exists. And if you break the business opportunity down, the biggest piece of the pie is in military industry, and that is where Ankit's company takes the biggest piece of pie from India currently. And congratulations to Ankit for two reasons. A, they came out with wonderful product, and they were the first to break the crust. And when I was in uniform, I remember first acceptance of 100 drones of theirs. I did the acceptance trial while in uniform in the Northern Command. Very proud of that. I keep seeing that. And great job, Ankit. I mean, not only me, the entire country is proud of you. Coming to the next aspect, which Anand rolled out the carpet, let me walk on it, is to say that drone is a vehicle. And it forms the base of the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal has to be built on top of it. And what do we build on top of it? Depends on completely the interest that you all have. So on that base, say, for example, let me ask Malika, what is your area of interest, Malika? You can unmute and tell me.
Economy.
Economy. What's your area of interest, Prashti?
Business.
Business. Let's take these two. I mean, both are, of course, very similar. Let's say someone had interest in agriculture. I mean, he felt passionately about it, say, like my wife. She's passionate about agriculture and farmers. Someone who feels passionately about medicine. Someone who feels passionately about logistics. And there are passionate children I have seen who are into logistics, in the B schools. When they come to B school is the time they realize logistics is the way to go in my last term. So you take any vertical, drone has a place for it. In fact, in this very policy, and I'm sure Ankit had a little role to play in that, we are going to have drone corridors between a big metro and a satellite metro, say Delhi, Jaipur, say Chennai, Madurai, say Bangalore, Coimbatore, or Chennai, Coimbatore. You will have dedicated corridor where the drone is going to carry stuff from A to B, say 1 ton at 750, 800 kilometers. And the clincher, it is going to do it at a per kilometer cost, which would be 1/10 of what the lorries are currently going to carry. So apart from business, apart from that, it makes a lot of business sense. It is going to reduce the carbon footprint so much, even if it is an internal combustion engine. I'm looking at internal combustion engine because that is the engine that is going to have that kind of range, that kind of endurance currently. That is also going to change.
No, what I was mentioning is that, Group Captain, all of what you just said and all of what Anand said is particularly true. I also do think that it's probably the tip of the iceberg. I'm very excited. He was excited about the show. I'm excited both about the show, that is Yuva Bharat and the drone policy. But and quite rightly, what you've mentioned that it's not just $100 billion industry, but even probably much more. And we used to read in textbooks the LPG, the liberalization, privatization, globalization. I think this is the new LPG of the coming generation. But at the same point in time, it also brings to mind certain questions. I really like the thought that a Domino's pizza will, like we discussed, will come in now not from your door, but it will come in through the window and you will be able to collect it, so to say. But at the same point in time, now, and this is something that internally also the students were discussing, we have allowed for foreign drones to come in. Of course, they need to go in through certain regulations and so on and so forth, but we've also liberalized to a great extent. Do you think, as a security expert, that this would lead India this would push us back and make it slightly more detrimental in the coming generation?
Great question. And Anand is smiling because Anand had similar question in his shows. And let me tell you something very clearly, Rishabh. Enemy does not and will not follow the rules that you set, and that was the problem with the previous drone rules. He will find your drone rule has to do only one thing, just one thing. It needs to set a framework where you can sift chaff from wheat. गाड़ी पे नंबर होना चाहिए, ड्राइवर्स लाइसेंस होना चाहिए. जिसके पास ये नहीं है, he is a security threat. So I have to make a policy in which a legitimate person should be able to clearly elucidate that he is legitimate.
Thank you very much for yielding. I just want to bring in Ankit, and one of the big possibilities is our largest acreage across the country is agriculture. So imagine what drones can do in terms of irrigation, in terms of monitoring, in terms of even trying to even ensure that there is pest control which happens, or even security and mapping of food produce. The possibilities are just absolutely, it's just immense, isn't it? And gone would be the days when the Kisan would have to, or the farmer and the family would have to take their entire set of urea and then spread it around. You can just have drones. The youngsters in the family can use it and play it like video games. So while you're having a play of a video game, you're also irrigating your field and tilling your land. The possibilities are immense, Ankit. But India as a market, is it ready? Are we ready to build drones which will be cost effective, which will be utility driven? Are we looking at technology going to that level? Because the progression will have to happen very fast.
Absolutely. So now that we are opened as far as the regulations are concerned, and I wanted to actually spend, like, let's say just a minute in sort of giving you a lowdown of how this came about, right? And where we were and, how we came to these rules. In 2009, when you saw an early prototype of my own company, Idea Forge, in the movie 3 Idiots, there were no rules. And that's when, drones became common understanding for everybody, right? From there on till 2014, there was, only pure innovation, a lot of effort happening in developing the technology, in trying to investigate use cases. But in 2014, we banned all private use. And then somehow magically in 2018, we banned even local law enforcement and Ministry of Home Affairs forces to use the drones. So that's how, we went from no rules to bans to another ban, and then somehow magically we were able to make it even worse in the new rules that came out early in this year, right? And that's where Groupie was talking about the fact that we had to create a lot of fuss and say that there needs to be a repeal. And now finally, where we were hoping that we'll get a pinprick in the dark skies, we are getting a clear blue sky to actually take off and fly and operate. So, with that background, I would say that applications and technology is never, or was never, the issue that India does not have the ability to build drones of a certain quality and a certain nature. I'll give you an example. Last year, when we bagged the contract from the Indian Army, we were pitted against everybody from across the world, because obviously in an emergency situation, there are no limits or restrictions on who you will buy it from. Right? We were the only business that was able to actually qualify that requirement at that altitude for the Indian forces. In fact, Indian companies that have been developing drones in India are creating them for our topographical conditions, our environmental conditions, which is something which other people are not doing. People can't actually operate in -30, can't operate at those altitudes where you have to take off from a height of 5,500 meters or more and be able to operate your system. So I think there is an innate advantage of the development that is being done in India, because it is meant for our country. We have been developing technology and we've been delivering that technology for those use cases. So technology is not the problem. It was the fear of operationalizing under a clear regime that does not constitute it to be illegal, that most of the applications were held back, and most of the innovation was also held back, because if there is no money to be made legally, then essentially you will not invest your energy behind the technology. So I firmly believe in the country's ability to develop and deliver technology at the best quality and the best performance globally, with as much automation as you want. But now that race will fasten we will be really accelerating in that direction, because we know that we can actually make something and it will be seeing the light of the day as far as the end customer use is concerned. That's my clear mindset as far as this is concerned.
Yeah, so surveillance, security, irrigation. I'm just saying possibilities are immense, because a drone can be the size of a fly, or it can be the size of the room from where I'm actually joining you guys right now. So
and all of these use
it's
cases
just
are being built by Indian companies, by the way. All of these use cases are being built from scratch by Indian businesses. So I don't see that as a risk problem at all.
Malika, Prushti, one by one, you can come in and fire away your questions, queries, your thoughts. Malika first, yeah.
Okay, so as much as we support the drone policy because of the liberalization, we can see after the 1991 liberalization, LPG policy, we are obviously going to support, and we can see it is going to impact positively to the growth of economy. But the main question that arises here is, one is privacy concern, and the next one is cross-border terrorism.
See, I'll get Group Captain Vinod and also Ankit to answer this. But here is a thought. I'm just saying, you have signed away your privacy to Instagram, but you're not worried. You've signed away your privacy to Facebook, but you're not worried. You've signed away everything that you have. You've signed away to Twitter, you're not worried. You've signed it away to every app that you use. You have signed away your privacy. But you feel that you're in control because you have signed it away. So I'm just putting this there. And then let Captain Vinod take it forward, and then Ankit.
Yeah. While I totally echo what Anand says, Malika, but I must tell you that I am with you on this particular concern. And you know why I am with you? Two reasons. A, that what happens within the premises which I own, I'm pretty much should be permitted to do what I need to do in the premises that I own. Outside the premises that I own, that means in the public space, the government is bound to, and it is doing surveillance on you. For example, the CCTV. So you look at it as an elevated CCTV, that is it.
Recently, we did a study in FICCI where we were doing market potential estimation of drone use cases, as well as when we look at drones, these days, we don't look at drones alone. We actually look at the counter drone environment as well. And we believe that the counter drone ecosystem itself, what Group Captain Augustine was mentioning, is going to be a massive market opportunity. And irrespective of your concerns about drones, you cannot solve it by attacking the legitimate drone guys. You're actually only going to be able to address it by going after the guys who don't want to come into the system, for which a counter drone system is essential. So this is something which keeps happening, right? There is a counter technology, and then there will be a counter technology, and then there will be a counter technology. So this is a cat and mouse game that's going to continue for a really long while. This is technology, and you always have to do, you have RF, then you have counter RF, and then you have counter RF, and then you will have counter RF. We never know when this will stop.
Prushti?
So yeah, I had similar concerns, but one more concern which I have is that since the drone policy is for the purpose of development, and the development of the nation happens with urban development as well as the rural development. So if we are urban civilians already know about or are little bit aware about the drone policy or know a little bit idea of it, but the rural people aren't that exposed to the technologies or much of the technology things. So how are we planning to reach out not just to urban people, also to the rural people, and explaining them the importance of the drone policy, as well as how can drone be effective in the nation building as well?
I'll take that on, Anand.
Okay, you want to go for it? Go for it. Go.
Yeah.
Okay, let Ankit start this time around, and then you can come back.
Yes.
So, Prushti, great question. In fact, it's really amazing that you are mentioning this. If you look at the drone revolution that in a way began at the beginning of last year, it actually started with the Prime Minister announcing the scheme called Swamitwa scheme, where the plan is to map all the 660,000 villages in the country using drones. and to provide land records to the rural inhabitants of our country, to bring them into the economic mainstream. So what is happening today is really fascinating, that when the teams that are flying even our drones, Idea Forge's drones, when they go out there in the villages to map villages, you would be surprised that a lot of them may be more aware of the fact that drones can do a bunch of things. Even the small kids who hover around that location where the takeoff landing is happening. So I would say that it's actually a very democratizing technology, that when people actually see it in action, it's going to fuel and fire everybody's dreams, not just in the urban environment, but in the rural environment as well, because people are going to do precision agriculture, people are going to do farm spraying, people are going to do a lot of activities around conservatism, about a lot of other aspects like power grid management, and all of them go through those rural areas, which are actually the concern areas as well for the infrastructure developers, because they need to monitor those areas where they don't reach every day, they don't see them with their eyes every day. So I'm actually quite excited that this technology is going to democratize this rather than keep it locked up in the urban area.
I'm part of a group where 750 pilots are there. They have a drone called Phantom. I mean, yeah, hopefully Idea Forge or some other company will come and replace it with a more legal drone. Be that as it may, they do 4 days a month job and they earn 20,000 rupees. उनका रोजी रोटी उस ड्रोन से चल रहा है. उनका पढ़ाई, उनके बच्चों के बहनों की पढ़ाई चल रही है. Just 4 days marriage, yeah, birthday 5,000, 4 days and 20,000 rupees in their pocket. How many people know that itna roji roti chal raha from rural India, not from urban?
Correct. And true, thank you. And now the height restrictions have gone away, so there's just so much more which is possible. So the possibilities are immense. The opportunity is immense. We've just skimmed the surface of what is possible. But we've just perhaps seeded the idea in the right minds. So Ankit Mehta, Mallika, Prushti, and Group Captain MJ Vinod, thank you very, very much. Rishabh, wonderful as ever. And let's hope we can take this message forward on the IIMUN platforms also and discuss this at large with all other students too. Thank you very, very much.